So you've got more to say about CarPlay today.
Yeah, I thought I would just get in a few more complaints about CarPlay.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not using CarPlay anymore. That's how much I dislike it.
Really?
Really. Yep. I've gone back to just connecting my phone with Bluetooth to the Ford because it's
What's
just a better experience. So,
how? What did CarPlay do so wrong?
let me try and convince you why I
Okay.
dislike it so much.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, and I think I might have brought this up on a previous show, is the whole connecting your phone and getting the CarPlay interface to come up is just completely unreliable for me. So when I first got the car, I thought, oh, you could probably just plug in the phone at any time, and the car should detect it and pop up the CarPlay. But after a couple of times of it just not coming up, I thought, oh, maybe you should do it like before you start the car. So I tried that for a bit. No dice, it would still occasionally just not appear. So I thought maybe wait for the car to like finish booting its audio system and then plug it in. But still, I'm in this situation where sometimes CarPlay just doesn't come up. So you'll be driving down the street and then you have to start fiddling with the USB cable, like pull it out, put it back in. And most of the time, that'll also fix it. But not irregularly. I cannot get CarPlay up at all. Like, you can't unplug and plug to get it back, to get it on the screen without like rebooting the car. So pulling over, turning the car off, turning it back on, and then you'll get CarPlay up, which is just completely ridiculous. And if you're on a highway and like it's a 20-minute drive, you're not even going to bother pulling over, firstly because you're taking your life into your own hands.
Okay, so you don't pull over. You put your car in neutral, then you can turn it off and back on real quick on the highway, and you won't even notice.
Well, here's the thing. When I was in high school, someone, my age but not my school, thought, I want to save as much money as I can on petrol. So when I'm going down a hill, I'm going to turn the car off. And unfortunately, on some cars, when you turn the car off, it locks the steering wheel and they hit a tree and died. And
Man.
I've always been very cautious about doing anything with the key while the car is rolling. So, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Fair. Oh, man. I've not experienced this connection issue. Like like the worst that happens is maybe CarPlay doesn't pull up on the screen, but I have the icon for it. And I can just tap it and it pulls up. So I've never had to turn my car off or back on or unplug and replug my phone to get it to work.
In my situation, the CarPlay icon just never appears on the little Ford screen.
Mm-hmm.
So we both have the same Ford, like, operating system, I guess.
Right, yeah. Sync 3.
Yeah, Sync 3, yeah. So I'm not sure what the cause is. But that's not the end of it. Secondly, there seems to be something wrong with Siri when it comes to playing music or podcasts. I don't know exactly what it is, but Siri can certainly hear me because like dictating text messages and that sort of thing just works fine. But if I try and play like any album or any song, Siri will just go and play something that doesn't sound like... I couldn't even think of a way that Siri could have heard me so badly to play this other piece of music. Something that's not in my library, something I've never played before or even heard of before, and sounds nothing like my request. So that it seems more like a bug with CarPlay, but it does make it unusable at the moment to try and play music or podcasts with Siri.
Right.
And third complaint is that there are some functions which I like to do which require the phone to be unlocked, like maybe get Siri just to read through my emails when I'm driving, and that's just not even an option with CarPlay. Whereas if... Actually, I could be wrong. It might be an option, but when I've tried it, said your phone has to be unlocked to do that. So that would mean having my phone on my dash anyway. So if my phone's going to be on my dash anyway, then well, that plus my other complaints, and I may as well just use my phone with Bluetooth. Thoughts?
My first thought is I've never once considered to ask Siri to read my emails. Can you interact with them? Like if she actually reads the body of an email, you can say like, archive that or mark it for later or something else.
I've never tried any actions, but sometimes you're just waiting for an email about something and you can just have Siri read it.
You must have a better curated email than me, because I hate having notifications, so I do manage it multiple times a day fairly frequently to make sure there's nothing new. But I'd say 50% of the emails I receive, I end up they're just spam and I get rid of. And so I wouldn't want Siri dictating whatever junk spam emails I'm receiving.
Yeah, I'm pretty strict about unsubscribing from things, and I don't really get spam to the mailbox that's on my phone. So, yeah, I don't really have that issue.
Okay. Nice. Maybe I'll have to try it out, but I didn't even know that you could have her do that. As far as your car setup goes, so Siri can't intelligently play a song or podcast consistently without seemingly misunderstanding you in a significant way. Yeah. So your solution is to pair your phone over Bluetooth and then talk to Siri through your phone, and then it works correctly?
And then it works correctly, exactly.
Weird.
No issues. Yeah. And it's not the microphones, because dictating, it works perfectly. Huh. Maybe Apple's got like different set of Siri servers for CarPlay requests or something insanely dumb like that.
There does seem to be like Mac Siri and phone Siri and HomePod Siri.
I know, right?
And watch and CarPlay. It's like it's not all the same Siri. There's like differences between them.
Actually, even like on the phone, I'm pretty sure there are two Siris, because let's see if I can describe this. If you try and send a message to an individual versus sending a message to a group of people, there are certain ways that Siri responds that makes it very obvious that it's going through like two different logic paths that are completely separate from each other.
Huh.
I can't describe better than that. But it seems like they're on like, sending a message to a group of people is like Siri version 2, and sending it to an individual is like Siri version 4 in the way it handles the request and the intelligence of it.
You are on a beta too, though.
Oh, no, this is something going back like over years.
I was referring to your CarPlay issue specifically.
Yes. Yeah, I have considered that, yeah. But what at this point, I mean, the latest beta for 14.5 came out within the last day.
Yep.
You got to think we're pretty close to the Grand Master, the Gold Master, whatever it's called.
I think you're right. I will say my HomePod handoff has not gotten more consistent. I still have issues with that. But I was having issues before with talking to Siri with AirPods in, where I would prompt her to send a text message, and it would always respond on my phone, like in my pocket. And it would never come through the AirPods, and that got fixed in the latest beta.
I've had that too. Okay, glad to hear.
Yeah, so there was some weird stuff that they're working out. So hopefully your CarPlay is that. I don't know what else it would be, because I have not had any of those issues that you've described.
Look, I will give it a go on the latest beta and see how music playback and music requests go, and maybe even like having the phone on the dash but also connected to CarPlay will solve the like certain requests that require the phone to be unlocked. Maybe that'll fix that as well. But I'm still going to be futzing around with just the mere getting the phone connected and getting CarPlay up on the dash.
Well, maybe you're the prime candidate for the Belkin MagSafe car accessory.
I've certainly considered it, yeah.
I'd love an excuse to get one, but yeah, I just don't have any reason to use it.
Where is your phone in your car then?
My car has like this very small pocket. I don't even know what it was supposed to go in. It sits just above the gear selector. It's like a little nook that you can throw coins or junk in, and it's just the perfect spot for me to set my phone in.
Yeah, I've got that too.
Yeah.
It's not where I put my phone though, because the USB ports are like under the elbow in that section.
Yeah, mine too. So I have a cord running from my armrest across my gear selector to it, which isn't ideal, but it's better than having to open the armrest every time to put my phone in there.
I just have the cord dangling out because it's got like this little gap where you can have cords dangling out, and the cup holders are immediately there, and cup holders are the perfect spot for a phone.
Ah, okay. Like my cup holders are usually full of trash.
I thought you were going to say drinks, which is fine, but trash, no. Come on.
Well, trash in the form of like maybe an empty Coke can or whatever child's toy that, like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy that got thrown in there or something else. There's always something in my cup holders. So, but I don't keep my car as clean as you, apparently.
No, mine's not clean, don't worry, but the phone just gets priority when it comes to cup holders.
Yeah. I really just can't wait for the day of wireless CarPlay.
Well, you can get the dongle now.
Yeah, I've considered that for the last couple of years, and the reviews I've seen on them seem like it's a little inconsistent and just it's not perfect, so I'm not willing to make the $100+ investment in a dongle that's only going to work okay.
Yep.
But my next car, I'll make sure it has wireless CarPlay.
It'll be an excellent choice. Any other pre-show topics?
No, I don't think so. Unless we want to talk about the keynote that was supposed to happen today.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So
there was a keynote that was supposed to happen today.
Which is at least partially, I'd say it's a big reason why we pushed the show off by a week, because I was traveling last week, but wasn't even going to mention it to you. I was just going to bring my laptop and my recording setup with me. Mm-hmm. But then when the seemingly confirmed by multiple sources keynote that was supposed to happen today, I was like, well, we should push it off so we have something to talk about. And so we moved around our schedule for the show, and then it didn't end up happening anyway.
Do you think we're going to see one in April then?
So far, John Prosser is the only one to say that there's going to be an April keynote, which I'm not a huge fan of going off of just what John Prosser says, especially because he was like the loudest person saying there's going to be a keynote today. But
he does have like an 82% accuracy.
Yeah, he's fairly accurate, and there are quite a few Apple products that have been rumored for a long time to be coming out any day now. The AirTags, the new iMac, we're due for some updated iPad Pros. So Apple I think TV. It's very... Man, the Apple TV. I'm worried about Apple TV now. And I think we'll talk about that a little more when we get to the discontinued products. But yeah, Apple's been working on a new Apple TV for a long time. So hopefully that's coming. Yeah, lots of stuff that feels like it's pre-WWDC stuff. So I think we're due for one. And I don't know if it's going to be a full keynote or we're going to get like another week of daily press releases. But I think something like that is due any day now.
The dam of products is filled to bursting, isn't it? I cannot wait for whatever event is coming up next, because we're going to be just showered with products.
And I am feeling that anticipation more than ever, because I've got this $500 credit that is burning a hole in my pocket. And if Apple doesn't release something new and exciting soon, I'm going to waste it on something I don't want as much. So they need to release a good, like a new iMac or something soon.
Yeah, there's going to be something.
Yeah.
You didn't even mention that the AirPods are looking at getting a refresh soon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those too. Are you going to try to hold out for those before you replace Yasmin's?
I don't know. It's I really do need them, because the right one is getting less than 10 minutes battery, so I can only use the left one. And I kind of want the AirPods Pro. A little bit worried about the fit
one.
So,
well, they do come with the 3 different size tips, which I think will be helpful in fitting most ears.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll probably get some AirPods Pro, and then just utilize that 2-week return window if they turn out not to work for me, for my ears.
Yeah, and I saw the other day Apple's gone back to letting you try AirPods on in the store if you want to just get a feel for them before you purchase them.
I don't think I'd have long enough in the store to really give it a good shot. I'd want to go on a walk.
Oh, I see.
A lot of stuff I've read from people whom they don't really fit say that like after 30 minutes suddenly that you find they're not really in your ears anymore, and that's exactly what I found with the original wired in-ear headphones from Apple. And I definitely don't want that again because I found that very annoying.
All right. Yeah. Well, then definitely take advantage of your 2-week window.
Will do.
Or get some over-ear headphones. Get them AirPods Max.
The AirPods Max were the very, very last headphones I ever bought. I'd buy everything else first and then those.
You don't like the design, or?
They're ridiculously expensive for what they are.
Okay. I didn't know if price was limiting factor, or... Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
I agree. But they're the exact amount of my credit, James. And those are one of the things that's like, oh, I could just get these. They're not something I'd usually buy, but it feels like they'd be free, so I could just get them.
Ah, yeah, that's true.
So that's why I need a new iMac to come out now or something. Even a new iMac, I'd have to justify a use for in my life. So I don't know what I'm waiting on.
All right. Well, we got plenty to talk about. Shall we kick into our actual topics?
Let's do it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The iMac Pro has been officially discontinued. A short 3 years of life.
Yeah, this is kind of overdue at this point. They either needed to update it or discontinue it. And with the Apple Silicon iMacs on the horizon, the engineering cost of putting a newer Xeon processor in them doesn't make any sense, when I imagine these Apple Silicon iMacs will get close to the performance, if not beat the performance of this 3-year-old iMac Pro. So it makes sense
and with
that it's gone.
I don't think Apple thought it was worth replacing it, renewing it.
Yeah. So I guess that begs the question then, if they've discontinued kind of the iMac Pro brand as a whole, I don't imagine we'll see a Pro iMac in the Apple Silicon flavor. I think that they're just going to all be so good that you don't need a Pro version.
Maybe, but there could still be, like, what if there was the 21.5-inch model iMac and then the 27-inch iMac Pro, and one had like one had an M1 and the other had an M1X. I think you could still make a product line that was nicely differentiated. It follows like the small screen, big screen, which is like the easiest differentiation of a product line that you can get.
Yeah, I think you're right that the bigger iMac should be more powerful. I just don't know if the Pro name is going to come along with it. But maybe, hopefully, if they do keep Pro, they're going to lose their whatever philosophy they had the last few years, where it's like the Pro version of something means it only comes in black and white. Because I'm tired, like, you know my compulsions. I've got to have like the Pro iPhone or the Pro iPad, but I regret missing out on getting a mint green or a bright red iPhone because I want the one that has the most features. That seems like a silly trade-off. And
I have referred you to a couple of shrinks at this point to try and get over this having the best.
Well, you know, I haven't found the best shrink yet, so I haven't got to go talk to them. So if I'm going to waste my time to go talk to someone, it's got to be the best one, obviously.
Yeah, well, what if you could talk to Johnny Ive? What do you think he would say? He would probably say the perfect computer is not a computer at all. It's in fact to have nothing.
Right.
Blank space in front of you where a computer once stood.
Yeah, I mean, you're so close. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they say is that the best experience is the device disappears in your hand and you're just holding the content or whatever else. But
like every sci-fi TV show.
yeah, Johnny Ive was the guy who was leading design in the late 90s Apple though too. Like he's clearly got the capacity for fun in him, and I wish he'd go back to that.
Just to theorize, he matured as a person, and he went from like a young playful person to like an old, more severe, I don't know, refined his ideas. And inevitably that walks towards, you know, what he was doing at the end, which was more aesthetics for the sake of design than usability.
Right. Yeah, I think his success went to his head in a way. Late 90s Johnny was an unproven Johnny. He didn't have any success or any major success. He wasn't a knight or anything else. Nothing to brag about under his belt. He just worked for this failing computer company. And so he was willing to take risks and be more playful. But then when people started saying like, oh, Johnny Ive is like the best designer in the world, and it kind of went to his head, and he I don't know, stop being playful. And yeah, exactly what you said. He started doing design for the sake of design at the cost of functionality and usability.
I wonder if the success went to his head or if he went to the head. Like he went to the leading position of design, and he became like his voice, his word is gospel. And on his way up, there was always someone there arguing for, maybe the other side, arguing for the usability aspect. Maybe like, I'm thinking specifically of Scott Forstall, because they were always apparently at loggerheads. But as he became more of a dominant player, he was just allowed to get away with what he wanted. So maybe it wasn't that the success went to his head, it's just that Apple let him get away with what he always wanted.
I think that's valid. I think Scott Forstall as an opposing force is a good example. I think Steve Jobs also reined in Johnny Ive quite a bit, because Steve was always a big fan of like computers should be fun and have a personality. So I think between those two versus Johnny, there was a good balance. And when Steve and Scott were both out of the picture, and Johnny got put in charge of software and hardware design, I think you're exactly right. There was no more checks and balances.
I mean, the next person above him was Tim Cook. And I don't know, I just get the impression about Tim Cook is that he's not the person that's there using the products, coming up with ideas on how they can be improved. That's just the impression I get. He's the guy that's running the operations of the company and doing an excellent job. But I don't think he's sitting down in front of the next iMac going, don't do this, add a handle on top.
Yeah, he for everything he's done for Apple, and I think he's a great CEO. And he doesn't have the same. He's not a visionary like Steve Jobs was. So I think Apple's kind of missing that in a way.
The visionaries are all down in the chip team at the moment, apparently.
Hey, I'm fine with that. I cannot say enough nice things about my M1 MacBook Pro. It is just amazed me every time I've used it, and I can't wait to see what comes in the second iteration of these Apple Silicon chips.
And don't forget about Swift as well, because that was birthed by a visionary. What was his name?
Yeah.
Chris something? Chris Latner.
Chris Latner.
I would call him a visionary. That was part of Apple, no longer part, but...
Yeah. I think Swift has done a lot for Apple. Objective-C is getting a little old.
Anyway, well off in the weeds at the moment.
Yeah.
So the iMac Pro, officially discontinued, was available while stocks lasted. Are there any stocks still left?
No, it's completely removed from Apple's website at this point.
Completely gone now. So if you want an iMac, you're buying an Intel iMac. That's just one of the products in the dam that wants to burst.
Mm-hmm. So, and
I was doing a little bit of IT work actually for someone who needed to replace their old iMac the other week.
Okay.
And we ended up buying an Intel iMac because that's the only thing that was available.
Mm-hmm.
And I did give him the warning that these are probably going to be replaced really soon, and hopefully within the 2-week window from when yours arrives, so that we can actually replace it and get an M1 version. But, yeah, it's a tricky.
But it was
place
that
to
urgent. You had to do it.
It was that urgent. Yeah. Well, it was kind of urgent. The amount of work that his computer needed to get him working on it again was overcapitalizing in the computer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what kept you in that form factor instead of maybe putting an M1 Mac Mini as the replacement?
That was what he was used to, and he's kind of an older sort of guy, so he wasn't really in for a big change.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely wanted an iMac, so I wasn't going to talk him out of that. So we went down the Intel route. I suppose it's not a bad purchase. I actually know quite a few people who've had to buy Macs in the last 5-6 months and ended up with the last Intel Mac probably in the line for whatever they were purchasing. I don't think it's a terrible decision. They are still good computers. They do tend to get quite hot, and they're not going to be anything next to the M1s. But they're also going to... They're not going to, they're going to be... Everything's still going to be developed for Intel for the lifespan of these computers, I expect, which is probably about 5 years.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Apple's Intel lineup going into this M1 transition, or Apple Silicon transition, was really good across the board. I think the Mac Minis were just okay, but the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which had just come out the year prior, was a very, very solid and powerful laptop. The current 27-inch iMacs that were already more powerful than the iMac Pros in some respects, depending on how you're measuring those benchmarks.
Oh, well,
were very solid iMacs. Obviously, the Mac Pro is incredible. So, this last hurrah of Intel iMacs are great performers, and I think that anyone would be happy with them.
Next topic is a few ads that Intel put out. Speaking of Intel, and they include a good friend, previously good friend, Justin Long. So everyone will remember Justin from I'm a Mac and I'm a PC, that campaign, that incredibly famous campaign, which dated, I have to say, it dated.
Yeah.
It was great then, and now it just seems old. Did you have a look through the different ads that Intel put out?
Yeah, I did watch the couple ads they had made. It's such a weird decision for them because Intel itself inherently has little to no advantage, right? If you want to talk Mac versus PC, which is what they were doing, all these PC advantages they're touting. You can get PCs that are on AMD chips, which are generally cheaper and cooler running, and on a smaller architecture. So AMD is a bigger competitor to Intel in that space already. Not to mention you can get PCs that run ARM chips as well. So saying this PC is a convertible to a tablet, so Intel is better than Apple, that's a weird argument, and I'm not sure what they're trying to do right now.
But isn't that what Intel's got left to advertise on? Because they can't say their computers are faster. So, I mean, they are playing up the differentiating factors between Intel-based laptops and Macs.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, one of the ads was them folding the screen back on itself, and
right,
like a tablet, and then he went to the MacBook, and Justin gets handed like an iPad, then a keyboard case, and then a dongle, and then a stylus, and I think that's a fair point to make.
Yeah, I agree that those are reasons that you would go for a PC over a Mac, but like I said, it has nothing to do with Intel.
No, but who's going to make these ads?
Yeah, it's a very, very desperate move by Intel, in kind of like a in their dying breath. But man, it's like what was that old phrase? I don't remember who made this comment. It was on Coke versus Pepsi commercials. Is like Coke doesn't do things like the Pepsi challenge because they don't need to mention their competitor because they're Coke. Everyone already knows who Coke is. Pepsi's the ones that got to do that. Compare us against Coke and look, we're better commercials. And this feels very much in that vein. Just in the same way I'm a Mac and I'm a PC felt in the 2000s.
So Apple was the underdog back then, so they made the comparison videos, and now it's vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
There was one ad that I did take issue with, and that's when Justin compared all the options available in the Intel PC laptop market, and then he went over to the Macs and said, oh, they only come in grey, which is just factually incorrect because you can get Macs in more than just grey.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you can get the MacBook Air in gold.
Right.
That's the only other color. Yeah, but yeah, it's very ungenuine argument they're doing. Where it's like, here's half a dozen PCs, and look, they all each have a feature the Mac doesn't. So you're not finding one PC that has all these features that you're saying, look, it's better. But yeah.
I wonder how it all falls with like Joe Blogg's average consumer.
I don't even know that you would take away the message that Intel, well, maybe if Intel really just wants you to think that PC is better than a Mac, that could be the message you get. But even the specifics calling out Intel is almost a throwaway line. Like there's one of these commercials where Justin's holding a PC and he's like, oh look, it's unlocked with my face, and he says, oh, Intel, nice, and he sets it down and moves on, and that's like the only mention of Intel in the whole commercial.
That one was weird. Yeah, they had like a half a second cut of the Intel sticker.
Uh-huh.
Well, Intel's paying for it. I guess you got to have the name somewhere.
Right. But just, yeah, this goes back to the confused messaging for me. It's like, if all you want them to take away is PC is better than Mac, they're likely going to end up still buying one of your competitors in an AMD product or something else. Mm-hmm. So to try to call out specifically like Intel PCs are better it's very weird.
I think they do have like the top position in your general consumer's mind though.
I agree.
People are choosing a computer, if they're not an enthusiast, but they do have like a very surface level knowledge of making choices of like RAM size, storage size. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people would know that the processor choice was like i3, i5, i7, because that has been like the choice for such a long time now.
Yeah, that's true.
That people understand that choice, even if i7 now versus i7 like 10 years ago are completely different things. People think, oh, i7, that's the fast one. i5 middle, i3 low tier. So maybe this is just an effort by Intel to keep the name floating while they actually try and get some half decent products out the door.
Yeah, I don't really have my finger on the pulse of like where the average consumer's understanding of computers lies. Like there's the people who don't know anything and will just go in and buy a computer and without understanding the specs and just like whatever the salesman says, here's what will meet your needs, and they buy it. And then there's the people like you described who's like, I know I need some RAM and I know that an i7 is better than an i5. And then there's still not the necessarily enthusiast level, but the people that like, I understand AMD and Intel exist and whatever else. And I don't know where the majority of consumers lie, but I would imagine actually you're probably right. They're probably more in that middle ground than just the blind consumers.
Yeah, I kind of like to think so.
So, like when I built my desktop PC a few years ago, I got an AMD. That was when Ryzen was kind of new. But it was a hard choice for me to make because even I as a higher end tech literate person had it's kind of going against a lifetime of like AMDs run hot and they're not as good chips and it were just on the kind of the about face for them of becoming a better brand and having better chips. So I can understand there being a lot of pushback still in the more common people. I'm not above them, but the lesser understanding people on the peons who don't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the less tech literate people may still kind of be making that transition of either not being aware of AMD at all or having the AMD of decades past in their mind, where those were the budget chips and you could tell they're budget chips because they underperformed, ran hot, and things like that.
There's a very sad bit of news coming up next.
Mm-hmm.
That Apple has discontinued the original HomePod and will focus on the Mini instead.
This came as a shock to me. I guess it shouldn't have, because it's been common knowledge for as long as the HomePods existed, which is like the last 3 years, about as long a life as the iMac Pro had, actually, that they haven't sold well at all. But I've always been such a big enthusiast of the HomePods that I had secretly hoped that they would muster on and make a version 2 that's maybe a little cheaper and more broadly appealing. And I guess that's what the Mini is supposed to be. I just think they went too far the other direction and lost what made the HomePod great with the Mini. It makes me happy I bought another one just a couple weeks ago, mm-hmm. before they're all gone, because now I've got 4 regular HomePods, and I think those will do me in whatever arrangement of spaces I have as I move in the next year or two, and then I can fill in the gaps with minis or whatever else comes out in the coming years. My biggest concern is how long these big HomePods are going to last me. If they'll keep receiving software updates, or if I will start missing out on new features or functionality that come to these minis in the next year or two.
Well, I think it's inevitable that you'll start missing out on software updates sooner or later.
Right.
Probably sooner rather than later. But at the same time, they're still going to be usable for a long time going forward. AirPlay 2 is pretty fresh. AirPlay 1 still exists. Mm-hmm. I think you can still use like the original Airport Express for audio.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like 20 years old now.
Yeah, I agree that they'll probably still keep working long term. I don't know. I just really hope they've got some other things in the pipeline, because the Mini as a home smart assistant, I will be disappointed by.
My biggest fear in terms of longevity is that they're going to release a software update which bricks it, and then they're not going to have anything to replace a bricked one with.
Ooh,
I think that's going to be the killer of a lot of HomePods.
Man, Yeah. I don't know what they would have. What they would do? I guess they'd be like, "Here's 4 HomePod minis." I'm sorry.
Yeah. You can hook them up in like surround sound and get the same output of an original HomePod.
Yeah. Man.
I think the worst part about this discontinuation is that the people who bought the HomePods were the biggest fans of Apple. That seems to be the market segment, like fully in on whatever ecosystem Apple offers, no matter how disjointed that might be, no matter how tall the price is, and how limited or bad Siri is. But they were still willing to overlook all the shortcomings to get the HomePod. Even 4 HomePods. I don't know which crazy person would do that, but 4 HomePods.
A fool and his money, James.
But you know what I mean? Like, the people who are really in on Apple bought HomePods.
Right.
And it's a dagger to the heart to discontinue them. So, to keep them around, it can't cost Apple that much to keep a product around. But I also don't want to hate on them for cancelling a product that didn't sell well. So, it's hard to know which side of the fence to fall on.
I've been in a similar boat since this announcement, because I feel like Apple's kind of gotten disjointed in the last few years, and I think their product lineups have gotten too confused, and there's 5 versions of the iPad, and there's iMacs in multiple sizes in Pro, and there's HomePods and everything else, and it makes me think about when Steve Jobs came back to Apple in the late 90s, and he had his 4-quadrant strategy of, we're just making computers and desktop and portable and pro and consumer, and that's it. We're getting rid of everything else. No more Newtons, no more digital cameras, no more video game consoles. We're just going to make computers, and we're going to be really good at it. And I feel like as Apple's branched out to other territories, their core products have hurt as a result of that.
Oh, most certainly.
So I've definitely thought in the past, like, they need to trim some branches. Yeah, it just hurts when they trim the branch that I was hanging on because I really liked it. But I think between this and iMac Pro, these are good moves, especially the HomePod. Even though I love it, I've seen multiple accounts on Twitter in the past week or so after this announcement of people buying HomePods before they go out of stock, and them getting like original launch day stock HomePods still running the original operating system that they shipped with 3 years ago. So they're clearly not selling well if they still have the original like manufacturing run of them.
No way, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So they were original manufacturing run HomePods if they're
Yes.
running that old OS.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So it makes complete sense that they would have to be discontinued. And I think Apple really, I'd say they missed the market, but like the smart home speaker market, but that's not what they were aiming for. They were going for a higher end speaker, just also with Siri.
Well, the writing's on the wall for the AirPods Max then.
Yeah. I don't know how those are going to do. They can't do well. They're $500. Yeah. I don't know. They've put all this research and money into really good speakers in the last few years, and they're trying to like justify it by making really nice headphones, really nice home speakers, and they're great, and I love them, but they're just not going to have the mass market appeal that I think they need to survive.
So the replacement product is the HomePod Mini, but there are a few bits and pieces that the HomePod Mini can't do, such as act as a permanent output for an Apple TV. You have to wonder if those sort of features are going to come to the HomePod Mini.
I don't think the HomePod Mini is good enough to do that. I haven't
yet to hear one.
Yeah, I've got just the one in the bathroom, and I haven't heard them in stereo pair. Maybe that's good enough, but man, a stereo pair of HomePods connected to my TV, it's incredible.
Is it so good?
It's unbelievably good. you'd think I have a big subwoofer with the way it shakes my living room with the low bass and the way they're able to do the smart whatever where they can make them extra directional sounding. And even though they're only 2 speakers, you get like a very good surround sound kind of feel to them. And I've been so impressed by how they've worked on my TV in the last month. I've been using them in that arrangement.
People have said that from the moment that stereo pairing was launched, that 1 HomePod sounds good and 2 HomePod sounds amazing. Like, it's not twice as good. It's a higher factor than that.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
I've been keeping my eye on the secondhand market for another HomePod. People want crazy amounts for them still for some reason. Maybe it's a scarcity thing.
Yeah, that's so hard to justify now. I guess I can see where it's like, man, these are really good and people like them, and now they're not being made, they're worth more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like they weren't popular and no one bought them. Like, yeah, I can definitely see scalpers taking advantage of that.
Yeah, it's a weird little market.
Yeah.
It was like the weird market for the Apple TV 720p, because that one was the only one that was jailbroken for a long time. And so there was this really crazy secondhand market specifically for that model of Apple TV.
Really? I never got into that. Huh. Would that have been the 2nd generation Apple TV?
I guess so. It would have been, after the one that was like a Mac Mini that synced with iTunes. I guess the next one was
the one with the hard drive in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were cool, the first generation Apple TVs, because you could install like other operating systems on them, and have like a Linux distribution, or even some people are able to hack like Mac OS around the Apple TV.
Wow.
So
that was a bit of fun I missed out on then.
Mm-hmm.
I was full in on Windows Media Center, I think, at that point.
Yeah, that was... When was the original Apple TV? 2000... I'm just guessing here. 3? Let's see... No, in 2007. Dang.
Wow, not that old.
Yeah, I would have thought it was older. That'd have been just when I was really getting into Apple products. So... kind of too early for me to have gotten into.
Like a mini subtopic on the discontinuation of the HomePod is that the HomePod Mini features a hidden temperature sensor.
Mm-hmm.
A fun little thing discovered by, was it Bloomberg, I think?
It's a temperature and humidity sensor.
And confirmed by iFixit.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a report from Bloomberg, which I'll just read it. The company has internally discussed using the sensor to determine a room's temperature and humidity, so that internet-connected thermostats can adjust different parts of a home, blah, blah, blah. The home hardware could also let the HomePod Mini automatically trigger other actions, like turning a fan on or off, depending on the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Redditors theorized that it could just be like a HomePod Mini operating temperature check, or even like a warranty check. You know, the HomePod was exposed to temperatures over 50 degrees for 10 days. Now it doesn't work well. Here's proof. So we went on to the warranty. But the little blurb from Bloomberg makes it seem more like this was actually put in there with HomeKit aspirations in mind.
Yeah, I think that's one way these HomePods can really serve a dual purpose, and hopefully with the discontinuation of the big HomePod, Apple's not giving up on the HomeKit kind of market as a whole. But if these HomePod Minis or other variants of the HomePod that come in the future, you have them all around your house, and they've got U1 sensors and humidity sensors and temperature sensors, whatever else, like proximity sensors, so that they could turn lights on and off as you walk between rooms, or control your thermostat, or even act as kind of like a mesh network again, and they could act as like part of your home Wi-Fi router setup. When you start talking about a product that's fairly stationary and ideally placed in multiple locations over the home, there's like a lot of cool applications that could come with that, and I hope they have that in mind for the future.
Yeah, I hope this is the start of something big, of really taking advantage of having, like you said, stationary Apple products throughout the house.
But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think we're ever going to see a usage for these chips. Like
for this one
maybe
specifically.
Yeah, it's just not like Apple to enable functionality like that in the future. Like there might be a second generation HomePod mini, like, oh, and it has a humidity sensors to work with HomeKit and control your thermostat and things like that. But this is not the first time they've shipped devices with chips in them that 100% of the time in the past have gone unactivated, like radio antennas in iPhones for things like FM radio. Those have had them in the past and they've never enabled them. So
were those things as a result of component includes FM radio, so it's just going in there, or it wasn't like, oh, let's add an FM radio chip just for the lols?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was like part of just a wireless chip they were using. I don't know. Maybe I would be happy to be wrong, but the idea that your HomePod can control your HomeKit accessories sounds like a big enough feature to market in a version 2 device that I don't trust Apple enough to give you that functionality for free.
There is precedent for enabling something post-release via software.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have in mind?
There was an iPod. Maybe an iPod Nano? I don't know. iPod Touch, first generation iPod Touch, had Bluetooth enabled in a software update like the year after it was released.
Oh, did it really? Huh.
I'm trying to find mention of it somewhere.
The only other iPod that had Bluetooth besides the iPod Touches was the 7th gen iPod Nano, and that shipped with it. Okay. So it had to have been an iPod Touch.
Okay, there you go. So I've done it before, but I would certainly say it's not typical procedure for product releases or updates.
Yeah. Man, I'm surprised I didn't hear about that. I owned every iPod Touch for a long time, and I didn't ever heard about that. Yeah.
I might have the details wrong.
I believe you. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I'm disappointed in my lack of knowledge. I'm not questioning you.
Also, a little mini subtopic on the HomePod. While we're still talking about it. Another rumor via Bloomberg / Mark Gurman is that Apple's developing new HomePod models with screens and cameras.
I can't wait to put that in my bathroom.
Which way is the camera going to be pointing? At the shower?
But yeah, obviously the place I can use it. My HomePod is for use when I'm in the shower, so it would not do me good for it to face anywhere else.
So you're going to be FaceTiming Mum while you're in the shower?
Yeah, she listens to the show. Hi, Mom. I'll call you from the shower. Yeah.
Hello, Mrs. Freeman. Await your video phone call. I miss this because I had a Google Nest hub in my bathroom prior to the HomePod Mini, and I got so used to having a clock just ambiently in my bathroom that when I put the HomePod Mini in, I had to buy a digital clock to put in there as well because I ended up missing it so much. So I would love to have that functionality put back together. I miss being able to ask for the news and actually like getting like live
video feed, or not live, but clips of whatever the latest news segments are. That was cool. And depending on other things, like if I cook with recipes off my iPad daily in my kitchen. So if I could put a HomePod that has a screen and a permanent place on my kitchen counter, and it was able to show me recipes, that would be a perfect addition. To have my recipes and a kitchen timer all built in, I think that would be great.
There is just so much more a HomePod, I'm going to call it that, with a screen can do that just an audio device can't. Such as the things you've mentioned. I mean, just having a screen always on your kitchen counter can be your recipes, can be your news, can be your clock, can be your calendar, can be your video doorbell.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just so much more potential to have that sort of stuff around. It makes sense for the product to exist. I wonder if this will be the replacement for the HomePod, the original HomePod. Or if it's going to be more like a HomePod mini-esque device. Something small and cheap.
I almost wouldn't mind it.
Yeah?
To have HomePod mini level like audio quality. Because something with a screen, I mean, maybe this is my limited thinking, but I wouldn't want it as a primary music player. I'd want it for all the things we said, where to check my doorbell, or to control my HomeKit devices, or to read recipes and set kitchen timers. And none of those things require an excellent speaker. So I'd almost prefer for this to be $150, $200 device instead of a $300-$400 device, because they put HomePod quality speakers in it, you know?
Okay. I wonder if it's a market that Apple really needs to be in, though.
I feel like they have to be in this market in some capacity if they're serious about smart home at all, which I really hope they are, because I've gone all in on HomeKit. Every smart home accessory I have is HomeKit, and if Apple decides they don't care about smart home anymore, I'm out of luck. And if they don't have some unified like small hub assistant you can place around the house to control your HomeKit devices, then you're missing out in a big way. Having to pull your phone out of your pocket to turn your lights on and off becomes a huge inconvenience when you could just walk in a room and ask them to be turned on.
There are just so many mixed signals. It's hard to know what to think. The original HomePod being discontinued. Well, that was speakers for a lot of people for an Apple TV, which hasn't been updated for 3 or 4 years now, and also costs a ton, way more than it should. And then the Apple TV is also partially available as just like a service on every other platform that's on TVs as well. So what's the point of the Apple TV except to run like Apple Arcade?
You could run Apple Arcade. It lets you do things like AirPlay video to just any TV set.
No, but you've got AirPlay built into TVs as well.
Oh man, I just bought a new TV. If I have to buy another new TV just to have AirPlay support, which I already had, that's gonna. I really, really, really hope they don't ditch the Apple TV, because I love that accessory.
I think the writing's on the wall definitely in some ways of thinking about it.
I think you're right, especially with their renewed interest in services, and if they're more worried about Apple TV as a service than as a standalone product. I could see, especially because they've had this revamped Apple TV design. And this is common knowledge that they've had this new one just with a boosted processor in it for over a year now, like in developers' hands, in developers like Apple employees' homes. We've seen pictures of Apple employees who have been working from home for the last year and just have them set up in their home with just this, I forget even what it is at this point, A12X or A12 processor. So these have existed for a long time, and Apple's just never released them. And the fear is that it's because they've just decided to abandon Apple TV as a whole.
Well, we could just loop in the next topic, which in the latest iOS update, there are a few language changes which are a little bit weird when it comes to the Apple TV. For instance, the home button is now called the TV button, and the remote control is no longer called the Siri remote, it's simply called the Apple TV remote. After all this time, these are the changes that they're making to the Apple TV software. It seems more like putting a bit of polish on it before they put it out to pasture than anything revolutionary happening with this anymore. The only thing that makes me think the Apple TV is going to be kept around is Apple Arcade, because besides that, I can't think of any other reason to keep it.
I mean, I've got 3 Apple TVs set up in my house that I use frequently, so I could think of a lot of great reasons to keep the Apple TV. But these couple text changes or renaming make a lot of sense in my book. The Siri remote's always been called the Apple TV remote in areas of the world where Siri isn't offered. So as just like a unification effort, I think that makes sense just to have it's called the Apple TV remote everywhere. And if someone handed you the Apple TV remote and said press the home button and you'd never seen one before, it's not necessarily intuitive that the button with a picture of a TV on it is the home button.
No. So both these things are just like little clarifications on what was already there. Certainly no indicator of something new coming.
Right. Yeah. I think there's too many people trying to read into this. It's like, oh, they're changing up naming because they've got a new version of the remote coming out with a new TV or something else. And I don't think that's the case here. At least I don't think these point to that being the case. Hopefully they're working on something, but who knows?
I just spotted there's also a new option for choosing other wireless speakers as the default audio output. It's just a mess. The whole ecosystem around home and TV and audio has, I don't think, ever been more disjointed and illogical, we might say.
Yeah, I'm not one to say like what would Steve Jobs do very often. I don't think it's relevant or matters, but right after he died and the biography by Walter Isaacson came out, and like in the end of the book, right before Steve died, and Walter was talking to him, and Steve was telling Walter is like, I finally cracked TV and I've got this great new product and we're gonna make TV amazing. I wish I knew what that was. Like, what was Steve going to do? What did he finally crack? Because I don't feel like this is it.
No way. Yeah, so, I think a lot of people have wondered what that was that he's finally cracked. Yeah. It's probably that rumored full Apple TV set that never ended up getting released. But, yeah. Well, what can we do, really? I've got my fingers crossed that Apple won't cancel this, and they'll. I hope they're going to release a new Apple TV that is significantly faster. Like, put an A14 in it, and target it as like, this is seriously a gaming competitive device, and we've worked with a few studios to port. Here's a few AAA games we've already got ported and running, and here's. Well, maybe they don't have to make a game controller because Apple TV already works with all the major console controllers. So just let it work. And yeah, that's what I'm hoping, is that they just do a revamped Apple TV. They try to pivot a little bit more towards gaming. But I'm very nervous at the moment that the writing's on the wall and it's going away. The next Apple TV needs to be a lot cheaper. I've never been put off by the price. Does it cost significantly more in Australia? That's like $350, isn't it? That seems like a little high. Let me look. Let me do a quick search as well. It's 180 or 200 depending on the storage configuration in the US. 249 and 279. Okay. That's the other weird thing that was never really resolved. Why there are two different capacities available. I have always thought that as well, and always opted for just a lower capacity one. I just figured out why today, or not today, but actually yesterday. My kids have been actually really getting into playing games on the Apple TV, Oh, yeah?
The Apple Arcade games, and I ran out of storage downloading the, whatever that floor is lava game.
Amazing.
So, now that Apple Arcade exists, there's an actual real reason to need double the storage. But that's saying something, because the original Apple TV with apps came out in 2015, the fall of 2015, and I've never once encountered a storage issue until today, 6 years later.
Yeah. I mean, they can't be selling many of these. When you look at the competitors, which can also run TV Plus and whatever else you need to do. For like $50.
This one's a little... It feels kind of like the HomePod, where Apple is over delivering and priced higher than the competition, and you know, when you got things like the Chromecast or the Roku, that's just like a little streaming stick that plugs in. But Apple's been in this market the longest. The Apple TV's been out long before Google was thinking about it or Roku even existed. It's funny how they seem to have lost relevance, even though they were the first ones out.
Yeah, threw away such a massive lead.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they'd actually like focused on even a little bit on gaming on the Apple TV for like 10 years in a row. They could even be like Nintendo competitors at this point.
Right, yeah. I mean, they kind of always have been in a way, because the iPod Touch was the best-selling portable game console in the world for years. They were outselling Nintendo's handhelds. And if Apple would have, at that time, 2008, 2009, thought about putting apps on the TV, they could have had a huge advantage.
Well, there was that technology for a time where you could have like the iPod Touch or the iPhone was the remote control for the game, which was AirPlayed to the TV. Only a couple of games that never made news actually supported it. I remember, I think Real Racing was possibly one of them. That was a strategy for a little while. Didn't really go anywhere though.
Yeah, I don't even remember that existing.
Maybe Apple just doesn't care about TV anymore. They only care about TV Plus.
I mean, yeah, they've always, for the life of the Apple TV, called it a hobby. They've never even been willing to acknowledge it as like a legitimate product. So, yeah, I'm scared you're right. I really don't want you to be right. I don't want my house to be less Apple.
Well, first it's the networking gear, then it's the audio gear. Now, next is the TV. And instead you're replacing it with just subscriptions.
I've put so much money into my home audio setup the home entertainment. Like, I got a new TV, but I didn't have to worry about it being a smart one with AirPlay, and I got the Apple TV, and I got the 2 HomePods, and Apple's slowly dropping all the products, and I'm feeling put out.
I think you'll still be good for like a decade though, even on all the old stuff.
Yeah, I guess discontinuing a product's a little better, because I can still keep the one I have. Even though it's getting old, I won't feel as bad about it, because it's not like there's a newer or better one I could replace it with. So I'll still have the best. I'll have the best Apple TV. As long as they keep supporting it and updating it, at least enough for it to keep, running the core apps I care about.
I'm James VDM on Reddit and on Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
So I'm thinking of cancelling Apple Music.
Why?
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if I can get your thoughts on this.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part of it is that my music library, like I always like to have like the full album of music that I listen to, and I like to keep it like fairly organized and neat and tidy. I'm not like crazy about it, but I am a little bit particular about it. And like nearly every time I scroll down my Apple Music library, Apple Music has like pulled a song out of an album, and because it was released in compilation, and added like this random album to my music library. And this has been a problem for like since the birth of Apple Music, and it's never been fixed, and it's really annoying now. And the second point is my brother-in-law is like a musician by trade. He makes his living off music, and he's talking more and more about how streaming music doesn't pay musicians enough to make a living. So I started contemplating the ethics of paying for streaming music, and I think I've come up with a new solution that will solve both my problems.
Okay.
And that would involve going back to pirating music, cancelling Apple Music, and instead contributing the amount that I would have paid to Apple Music directly to the musician in some way, whether that's like buy the album on Bandcamp or buy, merch that doesn't cost much to produce but gives them a good cut, or some other way of paying the artists. I think it's possibly even more ethical than paying for streaming music, even though it is technically pirating music.
What a train of thought. Streaming doesn't pay artists enough, so I'm just going to pirate the music.
Yeah, but they're still getting money.
Right, but why not just buy the music then? Or are you saying that you're going to contribute in an even more direct way, that even buying the music wouldn't contribute to them enough?
Yeah, that was definitely a consideration. I didn't want to just go out and buy music via the record labels, because I know that in the end, the cut the musician get is also greatly reduced.
Right.
Not quite as badly as streaming music, but there are certainly better ways to get my money directly to the artist. No arguments there?
I get it. If I was troubled with this ethical quandary, which I don't feel burdened by at the moment, but maybe now that you're putting it in my mind, I will be.
Good, I guess. At least to think about it.
Pirating is so inconvenient. I would be more willing to continue paying for the streaming service and also contribute to the artist in some way. Just to save myself the time of searching for the right album and high quality, and making sure it's not a virus, and then getting it uploaded to whatever music hosting I'm doing or whatever else. I'd rather just keep paying for streaming.
Part one of that is that I do have reliable sources for music, so I'm not too worried about viruses and having to find it and such, but it is certainly less convenient to have to go and to do that and then find some way of also getting it to my phone. I'm actually imagining still paying for iTunes Match, which would solve that second problem, but I mean, it's not just as easy as going to a library and clicking the download button like Apple Music is.
Yeah. Okay.
And the other consideration is, like, who does the money go to each month? Like, if I'm thinking that I could just create a smart playlist which shows me my most listened to album each month, and then that's where the money goes. Okay.
You're going to run out of t-shirts to buy really fast.
I'm thinking probably artists that have their music on Bandcamp is going to be the easiest way, because Bandcamp takes such a small cut compared to most services.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what your library looks like. Are they mostly smaller artists that exist in Bandcamp, or are you going to have to figure out how you're going to directly give Taylor Swift $5?
Well, I don't listen to pop, so that's already excluding a lot. But they're not all small either.
Okay.
Yeah, your idea of subscribing to Apple Music and also doing this, it doesn't solve the problem of me having a messy music library because of Apple Music, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I've been thinking about for the last few weeks.
Okay. I've gotten so past the library management aspect of owning music. Like, there was a point where I felt very similar to you, and it had to be perfect. And I went through, it was like having a garden. I would go through my library, and I'd get the perfect album art Like if Apple didn't have the great album artwork that I liked, I'd get it online and make sure that it was in there. I'd go through every single track and I'd put as much extra details in the general info for each track. And it was meticulously kept. And ever since I've gone to Apple Music, I've stopped worrying about it. I just stream it all. It's not my music. I don't organize it. And the few things that I do own that I can't get on Apple Music, all of my barbershop stuff, I don't have the issue of Apple finagling with my albums because it's such obscure stuff that Apple doesn't think, oh, I know what this is, and I'll move it around.
Oh, that's handy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of have washed my hands of that aspect of my like quote unquote OCD in recent years, and that's been really freeing. So the thought of like you wanting to go back to managing your music is a big turnoff for me.
I too was a little bit crazy like that. Went as far as downloading like BPM analyzers that would update the metadata with like the BPM of each track, so then you could make smart playlists based on that.
Wow.
That was the crazy old days. And I too felt like semi-liberated when Apple Music came about, and I literally just like wrote down every album in my music library, trashed all the files, and then added them all from Apple Music instead. And
wow, yeah.
I was happy for a time. But now when I go back and look through my library, and it's just such a mess, because every time a compilation is released and the track gets pulled out of the original album and added to the compilation, now the album's incomplete, and you go to play that album and you're like, oh, that's weird, why didn't it play track 4? Oh, actually, because it's over in Rock Hits of 2009 now.
But what if for all the instances that you don't want to play a song that you own, right? Because some of the best ways Apple Music shines for me is the curated For You playlists. I've enjoyed those. Asking it to play just like lullaby music when a kid is asleep in the bedroom. I love that. Or especially recently in the car, the kids just take turns shouting out like what song they want me to play, and half the time it's not a song I know or I've ever heard of, or sometimes it's really vague, like play a song about choo-choo trains, and I can just ask Siri to do that, and she'll pull up a kid's song about choo-choo trains, and it's great. And I couldn't do that if I was just relying on my own library.
Yeah, I've thought about this, that they're all sacrifices that would have to be made, because I can't really think of any other way of doing that besides maybe going to YouTube and getting it that way, but you're not going to be doing that in the car. I don't maybe having like Spotify free also installed for those odd moments when you need to just name something and play it. I don't even know if Spotify does that, but maybe it does.
Maybe Pandora? I haven't used Pandora in so long.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, and losing those playlists, I do use them. It won't be good. I mean, I'm sure a smart playlist could come up with like my favorites mix. And maybe if I went back and analysed the BPM, I could make the Get Up mix, but the new music mix is going to be impossible to do because that involves music that I don't know about yet.
Right.
I've got a week to truly decide before my Apple Music expires.
And I'm so tight, and I got Apple One. I don't have the luxury of thinking about I want to cancel one of my services.
Yeah, that's another consideration. Yep, Apple One.
Well, you have to keep us updated with what you decide and how that works out for you, because I'm anxious to see how many problems you run into if you do decide to go back to the bad old days of managing libraries.
I think I've considered all the problems. Everything that we've come up with during this chat, I have already thought about so far. But yeah, who knows once it actually expires.
Yeah.
There's also the whole, I don't really know how HomePod without Apple Music operates. I'm pretty sure it uses iTunes Match if you're a subscriber.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I'll have to see. I actually have to wait for Apple Music to expire to to do that as well.
Oh, you can't just turn it off?
No.
Yeah, that's a good question. You just have a paperweight.
An AirPlay target. That's it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that wouldn't be terrible if your HomePod just existed for general Siri queries, and to play music you had to do it from your phone. Like, it'd be a little more inconvenient, but at least it'd still work.
Yeah. I mean, if you turned off Yo Siri on the HomePod and just left it on your phone, you could just say, Yo Siri, play blah blah in the living room.
Can you do that? Can you turn it off on the HomePods?
Yeah, you can do it.
That's not something I've ever thought to try.
You can revert it just to touch and hold the top.
Oh, okay. That would be perfect.
Yeah, but then you're missing out on timers and weather and other stuff.
So you put a iPad mini in front of the HomePod, and you have it AirPlaying to the HomePod. And so when you say Yo Siri, the iPad hears you and responds through the HomePod. And then you basically have your HomePod with a screen.
It's the new HomePod.
Perfect.
Amazing.
That's actually exactly what I want. If they just take an iPad mini and make it bigger so it had a better speaker in it and took the battery out and just made you plug it in.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
Yep. Actually, something we didn't mention was that Apple added FaceTime and iMessage frameworks to tvOS, which the HomePod runs.
Right.
Forgot to mention that. Didn't
Yeah,
we?
That gives me a little hope maybe for an updated Apple TV. If they had an Apple TV with like a wireless camera accessory that you could set on top of your TV for video conferencing, that would be a lot of fun.
Actually, the Reddit thread is full of people saying that, the next Apple TV is going to be a what do you call it? The long speakers that sit under the TV?
Oh, a soundbar.
A soundbar, yeah.
I think that'd be awesome if they can combine the HomePod technology, which was kind of something people were thinking a year ago when HomePod started running tvOS. They were thinking about going that direction.
Yep.
And they can combine those technologies and make it an all-in-one under TV device. Then the camera doesn't even have to be separate if it's going to be sitting under the TV anyway.
Yeah. Can give some good up-nose shots.
Yeah, I would definitely jump on that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right, well, maybe we'll have an event to talk about in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, hopefully.
Or at least the announcement of one.
Yeah. I'm anxiously awaiting it.